So you want to start your own business. You're excited to get started, but you have no idea what to focus on first. Today, on episode number 50 of the Build Your Wealth podcast, I'm going over the 5 key areas that you need to focus on when starting out in creating an online business. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Thompson, and I'm so glad you decided to join me here today. Today, we're turning 50. Well, the Build Your Wealth podcast is anyway. And now that we've gotten to 50 episodes, I thought it would be fun to say a special thank you to my loyal listeners. You tuning into the show each week thrills me to no end, and I hope that you look forward to each new episode. I'm going to be adding a new feature to the show. It'll be a special listener spotlight where I'll be highlighting listener reviews each week. So if you leave a review, you just might get featured on the show. I'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts. It means the world to me, and I really look forward to getting to thank you for being such a loyal listener. Now, before I get started today, this episode is sponsored by my free guide, The Ultimate Beginner's Print-on-Demand Starter Kit. This is my super easy to follow 5-step system for getting your own print-on-demand store started. This starter kit will tell you the number one most important thing that you need to decide before you start anything, how you can create your own print designs for your products, even if you're not a graphic designer, and the exact steps you need to take to get your first product listing created. If you've thought about starting your own online business, or if you've been searching for a way just to add an additional stream of passive income to your life, then you'll definitely want to grab this free starter kit. Just go to NicoleThompsonNow.com/starter kit. Again, that's NicoleThompsonNow.com/starter kit, and you can download your free copy today. All right, so let's go ahead and get those 5 key areas to focus on when you're just starting out. The number one types of questions I get asked about starting an online business all seem to be majorly focused around the "where do I start" question. The good news is that there are 5 foundational areas that you really need to focus on if you want to have a successful online business. These 5 areas helped push me past the walls that I kept hitting in the beginning, and had I not taken a step back to readjust my focus when I did, there's no way that I'd have the business that I do today. So let's get started. The first thing that you need to focus on when you're just starting and you're not sure where to begin or what to do next is to make sure that you have a really crystal clear why. Why are you building this business? Really think about this and write down your reasons. The main thing to think about here is that it doesn't necessarily matter what you're selling or how you're planning on selling it. Your why needs to be the main area of focus. When you know your why, everything else will happen more naturally. It's also important to know who you're creating your product or service for. Knowing who you're helping can help you create the right amount of empathy or connection with them to sell from the heart. It helps to develop not only a passion for what you're offering, but connect with your target market on a deeper level, which will in turn lead to more sales. Your ideal client will likely change as you grow, and you may end up having a couple different customer models that you're serving, depending on the different types of things that you offer. Your why will also change as you and your business grow. So really think about the core of your why. And don't think for 1 minute your initial why needs to be some Mother Teresa solve world hunger type reason. It can be plain, simple, and even a little bit selfish. My first why? When I started my business, it was because I didn't want a boss anymore. I was tired of giving my all to somebody else's business and having them have the final say over whether or not I was employed. See? Selfish, but a core reason nonetheless. It was my reason that I would constantly go back to whenever things got tough. When it felt like I couldn't push through the struggles of starting an online business and thought about giving up, I would think about having to go back to work for someone else. I would think about having to release the control over my own life and going back to helping someone else build their business instead of focusing on my own. And by remembering my why, it reinvigorated me to keep pushing forward and continue to grow my business and do things my way. Now, the next thing you need to focus on is adopting the right mindset. You're going to need to be realistic here. If you've been in this entrepreneurial thing for any length of time, you already know there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. It's one hell of an emotional roller coaster. And if you're not ready for that, then you may want to rethink your plan. But what I will say is the rewards will far outweigh the struggles in the end. It's going to take time though, and you're going to have to work for it, but it's so worth it. The third thing that you need to focus on is choosing one platform. One huge mistake I made in the beginning was I was trying to be everywhere all at once. I'd try to spend time creating my website, posting on every single social media platform I could find, blogging, emailing, writing articles. I was driving myself absolutely crazy. I was spreading myself way too thin because realistically here, there is no way I could ever be in all those places at the same time, nor could I focus enough on each of them to make any real impact. Rachel Hollis has this great analogy she uses. She talks about throwing pebbles into a pond versus a boulder. Now, I'm probably going to butcher this story here, but bear with me. So the concept is, if you throw a handful of pebbles into a pond, the few pebbles will make the water rise slightly, and the tiny ripples made from the pebbles hitting the water will spread out across the surface. But if you were to throw a big boulder into the water would rise a lot, and the ripples from that one boulder would be huge, spreading across the water in huge waves and perhaps even reaching the other shore. Now imagine your focus is that boulder. How much more impact do you think your message will have when you go all in on just one key area of focus, instead of sprinkling some of your time here and there across all the different social media platforms and different projects that you could potentially be working on? You don't need to do all of the things. You'll have much more impact by choosing just one thing. Choose something like a weekly blog or podcast or video show, not all three. Become a valuable resource to your audience and pick one platform to start with. Once you get that one established, then you can look into adding more down the road. And once you get some really good income coming in, then you can even hire a virtual assistant to help you out with some of it too. A really good friend of mine, Yong Pratt, teaches these great methods on how you can take one message and multiply it out across multiple platforms, and even shows you how to automate it so you're not adding more work to your already extremely busy life. If you'd like to learn more about Yong, you can check her out at yongpratt.com. I'll make sure to pop her link into the show notes for you too, so you can easily grab it there. The fourth thing that you need to focus on is being consistent, authentic, and having a really crystal clear message. Producing your own original content to connect with your ideal client every single week is one of the most important areas to focus on, not only when you're starting out, but all throughout your entrepreneurial journey. Maybe this should have even been number one. For some reason, this is typically a really hard one. I even still struggle with consistency, but I've been working really hard on being more consistent lately, and let me tell you, the better I get at it, the more I can see that needle moving forward in my business. I can't stress enough the importance of staying consistent and being ever present in the lives of your audience, because you need to always remind yourself, out of sight does equal out of mind. I have a huge calendar in my office where I plan out my month in advance. I also have several reminders set in my digital calendars, just little prompts to encourage me to get busy in creating the new content for my audience, especially in those times when I get busy with other things. Another thing that'll help you stay consistent is to get an accountability partner. Someone you can check in with once a week, to compare notes with, and make declarations about the things that you intend to accomplish that week. Now, finding a good accountability partner will take a little bit of time because you need to find someone who understands you and your business and isn't necessarily on the exact same path as you, so that they can give an objective perspective. Each week, pick 3 things and then go all in on making sure that you at least knock out those 3 things every single week. A word of advice here though, make sure those tasks that you've chosen are things that are actually going to move the needle forward for you and not just busy work. Some examples of this would be to create a new product listing on your website, write an email to your list, and post about it on your social platform. Don't spend too much time on choosing the colors and the fonts for your website or playing with designing a logo or crafting that perfect email signature. Those are all important things, but none of them are going to help move that needle forward on your business. So just pick something and move on. These things can all be tweaked later on, and none of them are going to be what earns you any extra cash. Make sure all the content you create is original as well. Speak from the heart and write like you speak. You'll connect with your audience on so much more of a personal level if you do. Always lead in service by giving before you ask for anything. And when engaging with your audience, be prepared to listen more than you speak. Another thing that you need to watch out for big time is imposter syndrome. When you're just starting out and things haven't really started for you yet, it's really easy to get caught up in looking at how others are doing and comparing your progress to theirs. I spent way too much time comparing my level of success to others that I was trying to emulate in the beginning. Someone else's success doesn't in any way diminish the things that you've accomplished so far. And I get it. It's hard when it feels like you're doing everything right, but it feels like you're moving at a snail's pace. But you can't let yourself get caught up in comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. If you truly want to have a successful business, you have to build it on a rock-solid foundation. And doing that is going to take time and patience. You're going to have to keep your head down and do the work by putting in the time and effort to create a strong business that's going to last the test of time. So let's do a quick recap here of the 5 areas that you need to focus on when starting your business. Number 1, figure out your why. Why do you want to start an online business? And it can totally be as simple as wanting to be in control of your own life to start. When you start to feel self-doubt creep in, always go back to your why. Number 2, make sure you really hone in on the right mindset. You're in for one hell of a roller coaster ride as an entrepreneur, so make sure you're prepared for all the ups as well as the downs. Number 3, pick one platform to focus on. Do not try to be in all the places doing all the things. Pick one to start building and grow from there. Number 4, be consistent by creating one piece of original content weekly and make sure you're showing up there consistently. Whether it's a blog, a podcast, or video show, make sure you're always staying in front of your audience. And number 5, be mindful of imposter syndrome. This little monster will tend to sneak into the corners of your mind from time to time, causing self-doubt and might lead you to start comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Your story is yours to write and will be incredibly different from anyone else's. Be original and keep your eyes on the prize. I hope you got a ton out of this episode, and I cannot wait until next week when we meet again. I'll see you then. You've been listening to the Build Your Wealth podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to the show. I've included any links to specifics mentioned in the show notes section below, so you can easily grab them there. I hope you'll consider leaving a review for me and let me know what you thought about the show. And if it helped you or resonated with you in some way, I'd love to hear about that too. Thanks again, and I'll see you over on the next episode. To your success.